Welcome to another episode of Hardcat Basics. In this episode, we're going to focus on the creation of the 6 structural Hardcat core entities. The 6 structural entities are asset types, products, people, cost centers, suppliers, and locations. The first entity we'll be looking at is asset types. An asset type identifies what type of asset it is. Every asset must be assigned to an asset type, and they're usually organized into a structure for information clarity and reporting purposes. The asset type structure can also reflect a company's balance sheet records. Other attributes that you can store against an asset type are a preset class, estimated life, you can attach files, you can assign a depreciation class, a maintenance class, as well as a service level, which are inherited by an asset. To create a new asset type, the user first of all has to go to the configuration menu and then select asset types. Once within the asset type menu, all the user needs to do now is select the asset type folder where they wish to create the asset type, and then press new. The system will automatically provide a code. The user can now assign a preset class, give the asset type a name, assign an estimated life in months, assign a depreciation class, assign a maintenance class, and a service level for that asset. Once they're happy with that information, they can press OK. Although, when creating a new asset type, the system minimum requirements are only code and description, also known as name. Once these two are populated, the other fields are as required based on the system's configuration. Hardcat allows for any type of asset type to be created within the system. The system is only limited via your organization's types and categories of assets. Some of the typical examples of asset types we have within Hardcat systems are furniture and fitting categories, automotive categories, IT categories, maintenance categories, including plant and equipment, and other possible types including land, buildings, and other types of documents. The second entity we'll be looking at is products. The product catalog contains predefined entries that help the user reduce data entry, time, and keep asset information consistent and standardized across your asset register and across the Hardcat system. When creating the product catalog folder structure, Hardcat recommends using the asset type structure as a basis, as this allows for easy categorization and classification of your products. Hardcat also recommends a standard naming convention when creating new products. A standard naming convention usually entails brand, model, type. So the manufacturer, the manufacturer's model number, and the type of the asset. When creating a new product in Hardcat, there is multiple ways to get access to the product catalog. The first and the most easiest way is via clicking the product icon. This will then launch the product catalog. The other ways to access the product catalog are via the list menu, by going lists, products, or alternatively you can go Ctrl-R using your keyboard shortcuts. To create a new product, you first of all have to navigate to the folder which represents the asset type of the product that you're creating. In this example, I'm going to create a new laptop. So once I have selected the laptop folder, I can now press the New button. The New button brings up the new product details screen. From here, the system has already generated a predetermined code. If the product has been assigned a barcode from the manufacturer, you can apply the product's barcode in this barcode field here. In the description field, we enter our product name, remembering to use the brand, model, type, nomenclature. Once these top 3 fields have been populated, that is the minimum requirement information to create a product in Hardcat. All other information comes down to how you want to use the Hardcat system. If you're a user of the purchasing module, then filling out supplier, alternative, supplier part number, brand, GST, buy price and sell price may have value for your organization. If you're using other modules of the Hardcat system, then other information will be required. Within the Create tab of a product, we have the 2 entity relationships here, stock type and asset type. If you're using the stock module, you'll associate this product to a stock type which represents the type of stock that it is. If it's an asset that you're going to be creating this product for, then we'll be associating it to the asset type. In this example, it's a laptop, so therefore I'll select computer equipment and laptops. This allows us to use this product when using CAT scan. When creating new products directly in Hardcat, it will automatically associate the new asset to the asset type of laptops, saving your users a step and ensuring that the assets are associated to the correct asset type. Your users may also wish to save files against a product. Files may include user manuals, warranty documents, or even photos of what that product may look like. To import a file, it's as simple as clicking on the Import button. By clicking on the Import button, it brings up a new dialog window, which is a file browser, which brings you to your local drive. And from here, you can go and peruse your system and select a file that you wish to import. Once you have entered all your required information, all your user needs to do now is press OK to save the product. The third entity we'll be looking at is people. People are used in many areas within the Hardcat system. Within the core module, you assign an asset to a person. So over the person's career within your organization, you can see what assets that person has assigned to them. People are also used to associate to your Hardcat logins. They are used as engineers within the help desk and work order module. Within the core module, they also can be associated to a location, a supplier, and a cost center. There are multiple attributes that can be assigned to a person. These include address details, phone numbers, email addresses. You can import files against a person in the form of photos, contracts, certificates, or any other information. Your people can also have preset classes assigned, which can cater for up to an extra 1,000 questions of your choosing. To access the people functionality in Hardcat, you can do it one of three ways, just like we did with products. First option, clicking on the person icon button. The second method is via the list menu, via lists, people, or finally using the keyboard shortcut of Control-P. In this example, we'll create a new employee called John Smith. First of all, I have to click on the Employees folder. From there, I can click the New button. By clicking the New button, the system provides me with the option of using the next predetermined code or entering my own code in. The code you may use may be the employee's number from your payroll system, or could potentially be the employee's Active Directory username. In this instance, I'll use the predetermined code given to me by Hardcat. I have now been presented with the new person screen. Here I can enter in an employee barcode. If your employees have a barcode printed on their identification card, that barcode value can be presented here. We now can give our person a name. Our person can be called John Smith. Now that is enough information to create a person. The minimum information has now been fulfilled. All other information comes down to how much information you want to track within Hardcat. On the Address tab, we can fill out address information, contact information, title, our position's contact details. The person may have their own personal website or FTP details. A person may have presets assigned to them. You can associate files to a person. You can see what assets are associated to a person. And finally, you can associate a person to a location, cost center, or supplier. Once you have populated all your required information, you can now press OK to save the record. The fourth entity we'll be looking at is the cost center entity. The cost center entity is used to represent the management or ownership structure of an organization. It can be related to an organization's general ledger, as it offers an area to reconcile and record GL account codes. Assets are usually associated to a cost center, creating responsibility and accountability for those assets. You can also categorize them into folders. Cost centers can also be applied with a preset class. The preset class, when applied, will automatically add in default general ledger accounts for additions, disposals, gain and sale, loss and sale, and other GL account codes used within the depreciation module. To access the cost center entity can be completed in one of three ways. The first method is via clicking on the cost center icon on the main menu screen. The second method is by clicking the list menu and selecting cost centers. Alternatively, if you like using keyboard shortcuts, Control-C will also bring up the cost center structure. I will now create a new cost center called Maintenance in the DrumTech Systems folder. First of all, I need to select DrumTech Systems from the left-hand side. With the folder now selected, I can press the New button. Just as in person, I now have the ability to enter my own cost center code in to represent the maintenance cost center. This cost center code can be representative from your chart of accounts. Alternatively, you could use the code given to you by Hardcat. In this instance, I'll use Hardcat's code. Now I'm presented with the new cost center screen. As you can see, the code has been represented in the code field. If your cost center is also represented with the barcode, you can enter that here. The name field, we can now enter in maintenance as our cost center name. We can also populate the maintenance address information. We also could put in contact information for the cost center as well. Once you have entered in all the information required on the Details tab, then you can then fill out the other tabs if required. If you're using the depreciation module, it is advised to create a preset class and assign the class to the cost center. By doing that, the presets will then be applied for the appropriate GL accounts for creating your journals in the depreciation system. Once you have entered all your required information, then finally press OK to save the cost center. The fifth entity we'll be looking at is suppliers. A supplier or vendor can be recorded in Hardcat. A supplier can be linked to an asset, and that will show where the asset was purchased from. Also on an asset, a supplier is used to identify the default maintainer for that asset. Suppliers can be created for the use of goods and assets, services and stock records. By storing additional details against suppliers, the system will allow for the automatic population of fields when creating purchase orders. Suppliers can also be marked as authorized, forcing users to only select authorized suppliers for purchasing assets, stock or services. Accessing the supplier entity can be completed one of three ways. The first method is via clicking on the icon on the main menu screen. The second method is via the list menu, suppliers, or the third method is via using your keyboard control shortcut, Control S. I will now create a new supplier called Hardcat in the computers folder. First of all, I have to press the new button. Again, the system has presented me with the option of entering my own code or using a code provided by the Hardcat system. The code may come from your ERP software. In that case, you would enter that code in here to have an alignment between the two systems. In this instance, I'll use the Hardcat generated code. Now we can populate the minimum required fields to create a new supplier. The fields are code, which has been pre-populated for us, barcode, which has been provided for us. If we would like to, we could change that to our own unique value. And finally, name. This is the description of your supplier. That is the minimum amount of information to create a new supplier in Hardcat. As previously mentioned, you can authorize a supplier by ticking on the Authorize tick box. That will allow you to create new purchase orders against this supplier in the purchasing module. Further down within the Details tab, we can populate the address information. You also can populate the contact information for the supplier, and this information will then populate onto the purchase order as well. With that information populated, you can now press OK to save the record. The sixth and final entity we'll look at in this basics video is locations. A location represents the physical whereabouts of an asset, where it currently resides. The location structure can be representative of a building, a floor, a room, a workspace, or even an area. Locations, like all entities, can attach files. They could be floor plans or blueprints. Each location can also have its location information associated, as well as a default contact person. In the structure we have seen here on the screen, we can break it down into the country, the state, the address, and then finally the room within the address. A lot of the location structure comes down to how low level do you want to track your assets as an organization? How many resources you have to track your asset movements within your organization? If you were to track assets to a room level, are you able to be sure that your employees are able to move the chair from one room to another, one filing cabinet from one floor to the next? If not, then maybe you're better off tracking your assets to a higher location level, either be a floor or a building, or potentially a suburb. To access the location entity can be done in one of three ways. The first way, just like all other entities we've looked at so far, is by clicking on the menu icon. That brings up your location lists. The other two ways are via the list menu, locations, or by using the keyboard shortcut Control L. I'm now going to create a new location in the South Australia folder, which I created during the Hardcat Basics folder entity creation video. Once I've selected South Australia, I can now press New. Again, the system has presented me with a unique code to create the location with. I could enter my own code here, or I could use the system generated code. Again, I'll use a system generated code. I can now go and apply my own barcode to the location if I'd like. If we're using CAT-scan or the issue return function either via Hardcat or Hardcat Web, the location barcode is a very effective tool to help us assign a location without having to find it within a location structure. Hardcat has the ability to print barcodes using the print barcode feature within the barcoding module. Once you've decided upon your location barcode, you can then assign the location name. In this example, I am going to call it South Australia Head Office. I can now continue to enter in my additional information now that I've filled out my mandatory information of code, barcode, and name. The address information, contact information, presets if required, files, which could be blueprints or floor plans, and finally, once we're happy with that information, we can press OK to save the record.